Lena's father said when his family lost Lena that they lost everything. She was their joy, she was their hope, she was their happiness. And when you see pictures of this little girl, you can see the character and the spark of life in her, and you can tell she's one of those special kind of people. Lena's father, the last time he saw her was during his afternoon prayers as she'd happily climbed all over him. Please pay special attention to all the photos that I will show you of Lena, especially her age progression photo made by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as the video clip I'll show you of Lena's last known moments. Lena was her parents' firstborn child. She was born in Afghanistan. Her father actually missed her birth because he was a soldier in the Afghani army and at the time was serving on a mission alongside U.S. Special Forces. He loyally served beside our forces during that war, nobly saving many lives, and says that he watched their back and they watched his. And that was the type of man that her father was. He fought for what was right and what he saw was right, despite the danger. He knew that fighting alongside U.S. Special Forces had put his family in a unique type of danger within his own country. So he decided that it might be in the best interest of his family if he relocated his family to the United States. It would give his children safety, a chance at a prosperous life, and basically the American dream, which brings many immigrants to our nation. Now, Lena's family has been falsely referred to by numerous media sources as a refugee family. This is completely incorrect. Lena's family were not refugees. Her father was a decorated war veteran who provided loyal service to the United States military, and for his loyal service to our nation, the United States of America, he was given a special immigration visa to move himself and his family to our country because he was a U.S. war veteran who fought alongside our special forces in the war in Afghanistan. So on September 11th, 2019, he moved his family to San Antonio, Texas. They settled in the 9400 block of Fredericksburg Road in an apartment complex in the medical center. This was home to a large and thriving community of Afghani refugees and their families. He thought it would be the perfect place to raise his family in peace and live the American dream. In August of 2021, they decided to return for a visit to Afghanistan. A family member that they loved dearly had fallen ill, and they wanted to go say their goodbyes and visit with their family. So they departed the United States and headed for Afghanistan. During the time they were there, the Taliban began to take over. And as they took over city by city, town by town, the decision was made amongst the family that Lena's father should return and leave and return to the United States because his presence there after having fought with the US military against the Taliban was putting the entire family in jeopardy, just his being there. So they decided it'd probably be best if he went ahead and went back home. So he did. He left Afghanistan, he went home. Lena and her mother remained behind to continue their visit with family. On the day that the Afghani government fell to the Taliban, Lena's mother was among the people who mobbed the airport. And you can see in the footage, if you watch any of the footage, what a chaotic, crazy place that was at that time. Her mother was driven back repeatedly by crowd surges, gunfire, violence, danger, just the pure chaos of what was going on. And she had this little tiny girl with her. So, of course, she keeps getting pushed back by all these incidences and trying day after day. She's trying to get out with her little girl, and their last attempt to get out went very horribly wrong. Lena and her mother were in the crowd. Her mother was desperately trying to get the attention of the soldiers to explain who they were and that they needed to get out and they needed help. And while she was trying to do this, a suicide bomber detonated himself nearby in the crowd. And several US forces were killed. Many civilians were wounded, maimed, and killed. And little Lena lost consciousness. She did not lose consciousness from the blast. She lost consciousness from the terror and the horrific sights that her eyes saw when that bomb went off. She's only 3 years old. So her mother calls her father frantically, with unconscious Lena there, and Lena regains consciousness and talks to her daddy for a minute, and he tells them, "Stop, y'all just need to go home. Go back to the family home, wait there. I'm gonna make some phone calls and see what I can do." So he's able to make some calls and arrange for them to be safely evacuated from Afghanistan. So Lena and her mother, having survived the suicide bomber's blast by a hair, come back home to San Antonio, Texas. And they get home and everything is going relatively well here. And so one afternoon, Lena's mom decides that she is going to take her down to the apartment complex playground. And it's about 5 p.m., a little before time to cook dinner, and she wants to let her kids play. And so she does, and she takes them down, and they're all playing. Now, please, before I mention the next part of this story, please refrain from any rude, hateful, judgy, mean comments about Lena's poor little mother in the comments section. Don't do that. If Lena's mother could go back in time and relive this day all over again, I guarantee she shoulda, woulda, coulda, all the things that you think she shoulda, woulda, coulda. And it's not, her culture is so very different. In Afghanistan, they let their kids roam free. The kids play. The kids do all these things. It's a very open, trusting sort of culture, and it's very social. And in this apartment complex, it was the same. The playground was full of Afghani mothers and children playing. There was lots of adults that were known. Everybody knew each other. And Lena's mother had no reason to believe that stepping away for just a second was gonna have such earth-shattering consequences. I would like to read you a quote from Lena's mother. She hasn't been able to speak much because of her cultural constraints, but she says, "We all have the same pain. Doesn't matter that I'm from Afghanistan, that I have a different culture and a different religion. What we have in common is the pain of motherhood. And as a human being, it is the same as in all people." But Lena's mother needed to go grab some water. I don't know if it was for herself or for one of the children, but their apartment was right there next to the playground. So, under the supervision of all the other mothers, Lena was running and playing with all these other kids. Her mother walked up to their apartment to get a glass of water. Lena that day was wearing a beautiful red dress. Her mother kept her very well dressed and groomed all the time. She was wearing a beautiful red dress, and she had blue bangle bracelets on one wrist and gold bangle bracelets on the other, and her beautiful brown hair, shoulder length brown hair, was swept up into a very well put together ponytail, showing off her pierced ears and gold earrings. Over her dress, she wore a thick black coat, and on her feet, she wore black shoes. She also wore a necklace around her neck. This is when a ring camera caught the last footage of Lina Sardar Khil that we are aware of, and it shows her walking to the gate of the playground and looking around back and forth. And then she looks over to her left, and then she walks out of the camera field and vanishes off the face of the planet. Her poor mother comes straight back down, grabs the water, doesn't fool around in there. It's only moments. It's not even that long. It's literally basically that video's length almost. She runs in, she grabs it, she comes out, and as she comes down the stairs, she realizes she doesn't see Lena with all the other kids. And she asks the other mothers, "Have you seen Lena? Did you see where is she?" No one had seen her. And so her mother starts walking around calling for her, looking for her in the immediate area, and she's just not finding her. And she doesn't understand. Like, she was just inside for a second. And now Lena's just gone. Lena had been running and playing with her little friends on the playground, little girls that she would beg her daddy to buy her extra nail polish so she could give to her friends, and little girls she knew, and laughing, and now she's just gone. So her mother calls her father at work and says, "I cannot find Lena. I was down at the playground with Lena and now she's just gone. I don't know where she is." And she's very worried and she's upset and she's getting hysterical. So, of course, he leaves work immediately to come home. And on his way home, he's just thinking, Lena's probably fine. She probably just saw another family that she knows and she wandered off with them, went back to their apartment, or she's having dinner with somebody. One of her friends at the playground maybe left and she left with them. It was very common for kids to intermingle with the other Afghani families and go into their apartments, pop in for visits, run with a group of kids. So he just figured that's probably what happened. She probably just went with somebody, and I'm going to go knock on a few doors and we're going to find her. So he goes home and he starts knocking on the doors of everybody that he knows and asking around. And people are joining his search and they're looking around the apartments and they're going door to door. But by 7:15, there's no sign of Lena and nobody has seen her. So her father makes the heartbreaking 911 call that his little girl is missing. The police respond and confirm that it seems that there's a 3-year-old child that is missing, and like the parents and like the father, they initially believe the same thing, that she's probably just off with someone in the apartment complex, or maybe she has wandered off. Maybe she's lost in the complex, maybe she fell into, like, a little drainage slot or something and she's stuck down there. She's only 3. Maybe she's wandered off down the sidewalk of the apartments on the main road on Fredericksburg Road. Maybe she's wandered off into the brush and the grasses and trees and things of the nearby greenbelt. So in San Antonio, we have a greenbelt and it runs all the way through the city. It's about 28 miles in length. And it is a place to drain floodwaters because we typically are very dry in South Texas, but occasionally we have the inundation of rain. We get huge amounts of rain. And when that happens, it needs somewhere to go so it doesn't flood. So you'll see neighborhood after neighborhood, and the back fence of one neighborhood, the back fence of the other neighborhood, and running between is about a 50-yard wide green belt. And it's hollowed out so that it can hold water and water can flow through. Almost always it's dry. It's full of debris and people dump stuff back there and grasses grow and that sort of thing. So they thought, well, maybe she's wandered into the green belt or one of these places. By about 10 p.m., the police have blocked all the exits and put up roadblocks at the apartment. The FBI is now arriving on the scene. They are searching every car going in and out of the complex. They are searching every unit of that apartment complex, some of the units more than once. They not only have canines there, they have cadaver dogs there, and they're not finding anything. Vespers, Lena's father, he said that that night was the absolute worst night of his entire life. And in the morning, when the sun came up and there was still no sign of Lena, the city started to hear the news that we had a missing 3-year-old child. And this story is very near and dear to my heart, y'all, because I, as a young mama, raised 2 little ones right down the street from Lena's disappearance. It could have been mine. In fact, one of my little kids in 1st grade got dropped off and forced off the school bus off Fredericksburg Road right by where Lena was abducted from, and he was standing on the sidewalk crying, unsure of what to do. The bus driver had forced him off. It was the first day of school, and a nice man with a little baby, pushing a little baby in a stroller, saw him there in distress and asked him what had happened and asked my son, "Well, where do you live?" And he walked my son all the way home over a mile to my apartment complex and brought him back to me. So that's the kind of city that we are. Kids are very cherished and loved, and people watch out for each other here. We may be a big city, but it's a big city with a small town feel. And so it's near and dear to my heart. And so for Lena, everyone's looking. And the morning comes and the city and volunteers pour in. And the volunteers in the Heidi Search Center and all these other civilian volunteers, they pour in and they start searching everywhere. They're searching the green belt. Police are looking at every surveillance camera from every business nearby. They're continuously searching the apartment, still checking every car, every trunk, every car coming and going. And there is no sign of Lena. Only the one Ring camera that I've shown you that video of, that's the only place, the only camera that picked her up. She's not seen on any of the business cameras. She's not seen anywhere else after that. The canines, they keep tracking her scent from the playground to the parking lot where they lose her scent over and over. So everybody's beginning to realize now, oh God, she has not wandered off. She is not in someone's apartment here. She has been taken most likely from the playground to the parking lot and put in a car and left. In fact, they think that potentially by the time Lena's mother even walked in the door of her apartment and you see Lena walk to the gate and look around, then in that moment when Lena disappears off camera, that she was probably taken almost immediately and placed in a car and driven out of that complex. By the time her mom even really started looking for her, she was already gone. The FBI brings in some elite search teams, and the elite search teams, there are diving teams, and they are diving. We don't have a lot of water around there, but they are diving anything bigger than a puddle, anything where a 3-year-old could end up in it and end up concealed. They've checked every body of water. In the meantime, you have thousands of volunteers and canines and everything else. They're combing the complex. They're going through the green belt. The volunteers ultimately walked all 28 miles of the green belt. They searched every debris pile. held their breath as they unzipped every discarded suitcase. They picked through every homeless encampment. I mean, there was every possible place a child could be was thoroughly searched. People were great at searching that they did, just meticulous. The police helicopter had been up in the air since 10 o'clock the night before. I mean, it was just this all out, full scale, no holds barred. The FBI had been on scene. Everybody was looking and coming up empty handed. It was like she might as well have just vanished off the face of the earth. As night fell the second night, Lena's father was seen dropping to his knees and just praying. He really thought, my little girl's dead, or she's in the hands of some kind of monster. And he prayed. Lena's mother bears an intense amount of regret and guilt for having gotten inside to get a glass of water. Regret and guilt that she should not have to bear. And the question comes, who bears the guilt? Who did this? Lena's been abducted, but by who? And for what reason? And there are several theories that are swirling around as to that. So people said maybe, maybe it was human traffickers. Maybe they're hiding in a car, just watching, and Lena would be a perfect victim for them. She was young, beautiful, didn't speak any of the native languages here, English or Spanish. She spoke a very rare dialect of Arabic that hardly anyone speaks. So she would be a perfect victim because she would never be able to communicate with anybody. And she was very pretty and would be very valuable to traffickers. And this is a major trafficking route. So there was that theory. There was a theory, could it have been a lone wolf kidnapper, just some evil man with evil intent who had an opportunity and struck? Was it targeted? Was Lena specifically targeted? Had someone been watching and just waiting for an opportunity to snatch that little girl because of her father's cooperation with the US military? Was there a Taliban sympathizer among the Afghani refugees in that community who watched and waited and took the opportunity to snatch Lena specifically to cause her family pain and suffering in revenge and retaliation for her father's assistance with US Special Forces? Was it best case scenario that there was a childless woman who saw this little girl that was so sweet and so loving and took the opportunity to snatch the child to love her as her own? We can only hope. But then a critical piece of information came out. There was a boy who lived in the apartment complex and he played with all the other kids. He was very social, very chatty. He was always out and about. And he saw who took Lena. He said he saw her playing with two little Afghani boys who were a little older than Lena. He saw the boys walking away with Lena and he saw them turn a corner and then he never saw them again. And he recalled this because he also recalled that he had never seen those boys before. He knows all the kids. He had never seen the boys before and he's never seen them since. So we have two little boys out there that may have critical information in the abduction of Lina Keel. The little boys may have been enticed and encouraged to lure her by an adult to lure her out to a car, most likely. They may have lured her themselves to somewhere and done something. Everyone in the Muslim community, teachers, anyone who has contact with children, there's a pair of little boys potentially that are somewhere between the age of 8 and 13. And these little boys know who has taken Lena. They either helped lure her from someone or they lured her themselves. So if there are little boys caught luring some little child somewhere and they've ever lived in San Antonio, they need to be questioned. If you notice any children who are acting guilty or telling stories of a time that they helped take a little child or anything, I mean, there's anything, there's kids that are struggling, seem traumatized, seem like they had any part of this, they're telling stories about it, bragging about it. Please keep your eyes and ears open because there could be little boys that hold critical information into where Lena is or who has taken Lena. Another little boy in the complex, also a little older, like the one who saw the other boys, this one says that he saw two little boys in the company of Lena walking toward an exit gate of that apartment complex. And he called out to them that they probably shouldn't go. And he thought they were listening, but then he thinks they continued on anyway. So those are the only pieces of information that we have. Now, it could be these children are mistaken. There was a point in which hope absolutely surged. A little girl was found at the US border with Mexico, the Texas Mexico border, and she was stopped and she bore an uncanny resemblance to Lena. Her parents being shown the photos. It's Lena, it's her. They found her. They found my baby. And they rushed down to the migrant center in which she was being held. But it turned out just to be a doppelganger, a kid that looked exactly like Lena, and it was not her. And that was just an absolutely devastating and crushing blow for the family, as you can imagine. There is at this time no reason to believe that Lena is deceased. The authorities do believe she is no longer in the San Antonio area or the Texas area. All people all over the world, and especially all over the United States, coast to coast in North America, need to be on the lookout for Lena. If she is in the company of traffickers, they may have taken care to ensure that she does not learn English or Spanish, so she may not be speaking. This may be a child that's at a table somewhere you witness with other people who's totally silent, who's not ordering for themselves, not talking for themselves, potentially either averting their eyes or looking at you too intensely, like they're begging for help. She doesn't speak the language. She doesn't understand the language. So she is going to have that barrier to asking for your help. She's not going to understand your little sign. Do you need help? Can't do that. If you see a kid that you think is Lena and you have any reason to believe that that is Lena, what you need to do is you need to call 911 immediately. Call 911 and say, I have my eyes on what I believe to be a kidnapped child, and I need someone here now. And you try and hold those people up in any way you can to keep them there until law enforcement comes, so law enforcement can sort out whether or not that is Lena. It could be another doppelganger. It could be that this child is not Lena. Don't put yourself in harm's way. She is 6 now. It's been a little over 2 years since she was taken, so it's possible she has picked up some English, whoever she's with, if they've allowed it, and that she could be speaking with a thick accent, so keep that in mind as well. If you're wondering, "How can I help?" You've been touched by this story, you wanna help, remember, there's a $250,000 reward if you are the one who spots Lena. There are various ways different types of people can help, and I'll let you know for your situation what you can do to help. If you see Lena or have any information whatsoever about the disappearance of Lena, call 1-800 The Lost, the FBI, Crime Stoppers, local law enforcement, SAPD. Don't be afraid to call. If you see something, say something, right? Our motto since 9/11: if you see something, say something. If you even think a kid might be Lena, call. The worst that can happen is the cops come and they say, "Oh, sorry, it's not Lena." And you say, "I apologize. I thought she was this kidnapped child." No harm, no foul, right? So, if you have no information, you don't think you've seen Lena, and you want to help, the way that you can help is you can go to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website, which the link is in the description, and you can print Lena's age progression photo, share her age progression photo. You can print flyers directly from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children's website that are of Lena and her reward. You can post those in your workplace. You can hand them out to anywhere that someone could take a child if they have a child they shouldn't have. So we're talking urgent cares, ERs, anywhere like that that may treat a child medically, schools that she could be enrolled in potentially, um, anywhere, restaurants, businesses, grocery stores, anywhere that you can think of that someone with an abducted child could possibly take that child in your community. We need all eyes recognizing this kid's face. So if any eyeballs in the whole world see this child's face anywhere, they're going to know who they're looking at. And that is key. The awareness is key. The visual recognition is key. That's why I put up the same photos over and over through this. I want them seared into your brain. I want you to recognize her from other children on site. I want you to have that, "Oh my god, look who it is, it's Lena." If you see her, please be vigilant out there. Share this video or her pictures or anything. I don't care which video you share, which picture, just share something on your social media. If you're watching this, just click share and share this to your social media, all your social media. Get her face out there. We are all removed from everybody else by only 7 connections, 7 steps. We are away from any one person, which means even Lena. So if we share and we ask our people to share and we ask them to share, 7 steps out, that's gonna fall in the right pair of eyes somewhere, the right brain, the right ears. It's gonna hit the right person, and we together can harness the vast power of social media, and we can bring Lena home to her family. Imagine if it was your share, your post that got shared, reshared, or maybe directly landed to the right person that brought this baby girl home to her family. Her father and mother are suffering. Her father still to this day, every time he sees a sex offender roundup or a human traffic ring has been busted, he takes a screenshot of that and he sends it to the police and he says, "But have you asked these people about Lena? Can you imagine having to live your life with that fear for your little girl where you're snapshotting the pictures of these horrific people and having to ask, but did you ask them if they've seen or hurt my little girl?" Imagine having to live like that. So do what you can to try and help bring little Lena home. We just want to try to the greatest extent of our abilities to get her story and her face out there to as many pairs of eyes as possible. Her parents, they deserve it. They deserve answers to what has happened. Her father went above and beyond to help our country and to help us. The least we can do is find his child. It could be your post that someone sees or shares that answers the question, where is Lena? I want you to hold your babies tight. Always listen to your gut, for the horrors persist, but so do we. Thank you for watching and sharing to bring awareness to the disappearance of Lina Sardar Khil. Together, we can bring her home to her family. All you have to do is share. Let's find her and bring her home. Thank you for stopping by.